excited that I reached out to this guy just like not even an hour ago, and he was nice enough to make some time to talk with us today about the 30th anniversary of what is certainly a landmark album in his career and in music in general, and that is Are You Gonna Go My Way? And that guy is the one and only Lenny Kravitz joining us right now. Lenny, how are you, brother?
I'm great, Eddie. How you doing, bro?
Good, man. How are you? Where are you? Are you? I know you're doing the Academy Awards this weekend, aren't you?
Yeah. I just got to LA last night, so I'm actually on the 10 freeway right now, looking at the snow-capped mountains, heading into Hollywood, and all is well. All is well.
What are you going to be doing at the awards? You're doing the in memoriam, right?
Yeah. So I'll be there with.
You there, man? You dropped out for a second. You said Lenny, you dropped out for a second.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to be there playing with Craig Ross and the orchestra, and we're going to play an old tune, kind of an obscure one. I'm not going to say what it is, but very appropriate for this occasion.
All right. Well, we look forward to seeing that. So, listen, man, I saw your post earlier, which is what, I texted you about that. I couldn't believe it because this crept up on me that Are You Gonna Go My Way is 30 years old today. Man, it just like blows my mind that the record is that old because I feel like it was just yesterday that I was playing it on the radio when it was new. Yeah, that's the beauty of our perspective, right? It's been 30 years, and I mean, I remember it like it was yesterday. It was an incredible time when I made that record, which I made at Waterfront Studios in Hoboken, New Jersey, where I made my first few albums. And I was living in the city over on Broome and Mercer in my loft, and it was a very exciting time. And that's actually the first record that I made with Craig Ross, because he joined me after MaSSa, went on the MaSSa tour with me, and he was the first person that I started working in the studio with because, for the most part, I play all or most of the instruments on everything, and I found this genius of a guitar player and a beautiful human being, and he and I worked together on that album, and it was amazing. It was amazing to find somebody that I could relate to in that way. We didn't have to speak. Everything was very instinctual. We understood each other. If I played a part, he played the exact accompanying part. It just worked. Everything worked. And we made a really beautiful record together. Well, as you said, the first two records leading into this was pretty much all you writing and playing everything. And now you find this collaborator who, of course, you still work with to this day, in Craig Ross.
That's right.
How did you find him, Lenny? How did you guys connect and create this bond?
So I was at a pool hall one night on Hollywood Boulevard, and Kathy Valentine from the Go-Go's walked up to me. Now, I had known Kathy from A&M Records at the studio when I was making my demos under Romeo Blue. And I don't know how she remembered me, but she did. And they treated me really nicely. I was this like teenage kid in there making demos. They were at the height of their success, and they were in the studio cutting. I don't even know what they were cutting at the time, but they used to party and hang out, and they were a lot of fun. So she walks up to me, and I said, "I can't believe you remember me." She said, "Of course I remember you." And she congratulated me on Let Love Rule. And I think MaSSa had been out a week, if that. And she said, "Do you by chance need a guitar player?" And I said, "Actually, I do. I'm getting ready to go on the tour." And I was auditioning guitar players at the time. Perfect timing. She points over to this pool table across the room. She says, "See that guy with the hair?" She goes, "That's your guitar player." I said, "Is he?" He was in a band at the time called Broken Homes that had a couple of few albums out and were having success. But something was going on with the group. He was ready to leave. It was his group, but he didn't want to do it anymore. And so she invited me over to the table. I sat, we talked. The next morning, I think might have been like 8, 9 in the morning. It was really early. He came by my place where I was staying, and I said, okay, I just finished this album called MaSSa. I'm going to play you the music. And he said, I already know it. So how do you know it? It's been out a week. He's like, I know it. I got it. I know it. And he sat there and played me all of my music in my face to perfection. And from that day until right now, today, we've been inseparable and done everything together. You know, living in the same places, flying together, living on the tour buses together, making all these albums together. He's the person that I see the most in life. And so it's beautiful. But yeah, Kathy Valentine, man.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So Lenny,
and the reason she knew him, he was her roommate at the time.
Oh, okay.
She was with Clem. What's Clem's last name from Blondie, the drummer?
Clem Burke.
Clem Burke, exactly. So she was with Clem, and Craig was the roommate, and they all lived together.
That's amazing. Lenny, when you listen to this record 30 years on, I mean, the thing that jumps out to me from my perspective about it, having been a fan of yours since day one, since Let Love Rule, and I remember playing that when it first hit, but to me, this record was really the one that, it was a nice build from Let Love Rule into MaSSa, and then when this thing hit, specifically the title track at Rock Radio,
yes,
everything really changed for you. That was a whole different level, wasn't it?
It did, and it's so strange because if you listen to everything else that was out at the time, rock and roll or otherwise, it was just so different and so raw, and the panning was crazy, the recording was crazy, things on one side, things, phasing all over the place, and it took a minute. Like, it came out, and it was a very slow build, and then I met Mark Romanek, who made the Are You Gonna Go My Way video, and which was just, sometimes you get the right music at the right time with the right image, and that happened. And I remember MTV sort of fighting with it. Like, they played it, but they played it really late at night. They weren't giving me, great rotation at that time. And they kept working it and working it. The guys at Virgin Records were working it, radio. And it looked like it was going to kind of not happen. And it just, one of those moments, it just went, just one day, everything just changed. It just happened, and then it just never went away. And it was a very magical moment. And, we had an amazing world tour where, as you probably know, in Europe, Robert Plant opened for us. I can't even call it opening. Was our Beyond special guest. It made absolutely no sense at all that I was going on after Whole Lotta Love. You know what I mean? It was, right. but it was just that time. He wanted to go on the road. He had put out a solo record, and he wanted to play for younger people, and liked my music and met me, and we became great friends and still are to this day. But it was just an amazing run, and I'm very grateful. And as you say, it was that moment that just tipped the scales,
Do you remember, I mean, of course you do, but just speaking, and I want to hit you about a couple other songs that I love on the record and get a few things from you. I don't want to hold you too long. I'm sure you're busy.
No,
but
I'm all good. I'm in the car, bro.
Good. I appreciate it, man. So, but do you remember, I mean, the riff to Are You Gonna Go My Way has in the last 30 years has become so iconic and so signature. Do you remember that riff? Did you bring it in? Did Craig bring it in? Do you remember the origins of the riff to the song?
It was a jam. It was a jam. So what happened was, at the time, I was producing an album on a French artist named Vanessa Paradis. I don't know if you remember that.
I do.
A legend in France and in Europe. She was married to Johnny Depp. You remember her, right?
Yes, I do. I do. I definitely remember the name. I don't know the music, but I remember the name and your involvement.
So I produced that record, and we were in the studio in Hoboken, and I was cutting Are You Gonna Go My Way album and her album at the same time. And these were still the days when I wasn't getting lockouts in the studio. I had like, you know, you have to work between this time and that time. I was still working that way. I couldn't afford it yet to take the whole lockouts, right, when we were making that record. And so Craig, myself, and Tony Bright, who's the bass player that was playing with me at that time, 5 minutes before the next client was coming in, went into the recording studio and just started jamming. And we had no idea what was going on. And this thing just happened between, I was on the drums, Craig was on the guitar, and Tony was on the bass. And it just happened, you know? And it was just this moment. But we had to do it in 5 minutes because the other clients were outside waiting to get in, right? And so we did it. It was one take, done. I didn't have any words. I didn't have any lyrics. I took the cassette home, and I just kept playing the cassette on my box over and over and over the whole day. And then the lyrics came, the melody came. I pulled out a paper bag and started writing on it. Went back in the next day and cut the vocal. I knew that it felt good, but I you know, you don't know what it is, right? I just knew that it felt good and had no idea that it was going to be a song that would change my life like that, you know?
Yeah, it's incredible. That's always so interesting to me when I talk to artists who have songs like that in their catalog, to know if like they knew at the time, like about 30 years from now, this is still going to be my signature song. And most of the times they don't, but you knew well enough about it that even before it came out, you knew it was good. It became the track that opened the record, and you named the record after it. So you knew, I imagine it had to feel really special even then.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That was the statement, you know, and that was the tune that really stood out. And there's beautiful songs on that record, you know, but that was the thing that stood out. And the title and just the album cover and everything, which Jean-Baptiste Mondino, shot, you know, right in front of my loft on Broome Street down on the street. It just all fit together. So it was beyond me, you know. There are just those moments where you catch a wave, you jump on, and you let it take you where it's going to take you, you know.
Another one on the record that I love that became a big song too is "Believe." What can you tell us about that in retrospect?
That was one of those songs. You know, there's always a song on a record that just takes a lot of time, and that was one of them. I don't know how many times I recorded the drums over, the bass over, you know, Henry Hirsch on the Wurlitzer. You know, it was just one of those tunes that took a lot of time, just by virtue of it not sounding the way I wanted it to sound. And the one thing that I could say that did happen quickly in one take was Craig's solo at the end, which I love. Just such a classic, beautiful, uplifting guitar solo, man, that just really shows who he is. You know, Craig does not get enough credit and mention. He is an extraordinary musician and just a genius guitar player who can play any style. And but that solo at the end is the moment for me. You know, I mean,
me too.
Beautiful chorus, but that solo just takes you off. You know.
Yeah, it soars. It's so cool. It's got such a great feel and tone and just epic. It just gives, even though the song is like just under 5 minutes, it feels so grand and epic the way it goes out. It's just unreal. You know, you and I. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lenny.
No. Go ahead. All good.
I was going to say, you and I both, one of our bonds musically is that we both grew up big Kiss fans. I remember when I got this record, I said, oh, he covered Come On and Love Me, the old Kiss song.
You know, I didn't even think about the title, and that is such a great song.
Yes.
Yeah, there's that other track, Come On and Love Me, which is like, you know, this sort of bombastic drum beat jam with a funky guitar and falsetto vocals. But I'm sure somewhere in there subconsciously that title came out because of that, you know.
Right, it's not the Kiss song, but it is an original song. And the other thing that I didn't know until fairly recently is there's one song on the record that you did not write, and it's Heaven Help, which was also a pretty big song. Right. What was the origins of that?
So in my career, I've only done 2 or 3 cover songs. I don't normally do them. My cousin, Jerry DeVoe from the Bahamas, who I grew up with, wrote that song. He was a songwriter, and he wrote it with Terry Britton, who, you know, is a huge songwriter, wrote all those big songs for Tina Turner, We Don't Need Another Hero, so forth and so on. And they wrote that song. He cut a demo of it, and I heard it, and he was giving it to some artist, and he just wanted me to hear it. And I heard it, and I said, I got to sing this song. I feel this song. I got to sing this song. And I wrestled with him to get it back from whoever he was giving it to, and I cut it. And it just felt right. Just every now and again, you hear a song that is not yours, and it feels like it is yours, you know?
Yeah, because as you said, and for people that aren't as geeky as I am about this stuff with credits and what have you, for the most part in your career, you've written everything. You've had a few co-writers here and there, but you've always had a big hand and recorded it. And of course, the thing that comes to mind later in your career is covering American Woman, which actually became a huge hit for you. Yeah. Yeah,
which is hysterical that, you know, a lot of younger people that, you know, weren't hip to the Guess Who, they think it's my song, you know.
Right.
But that was a very difficult one to tackle because the song is perfect. I mean, the Guess Who song is absolutely perfect. And I got a call from Guy Oseary, who was involved with the Spy Who Shagged Me, right? And the Austin Powers movie, and they were very specific. They wanted that song covered. And so he called me and said, you should do this. And I thought, how am I going to do anything with this song? It's perfect. But I just sat with it and, you know, came up with that groove, which was just really very simple. You know, kick drum claps and hi-hat, and built the thing on top of it. And again, had no idea that it was going to be what it was and be this huge hit and, you know, a Grammy winner and et cetera. It was just something that I was just challenged to do, you know, and it was an honor to do. And what was great about it was I got to know the Guess Who after that, who had been sort of on chill mode for a while. And it's just one of those beautiful things where it's a win-win for everybody. I got to cover their beautiful song. They got to make a lot of money. And, you know, I remember, you know, a couple of the guys calling me and, you know, were able to, you know, go buy a new house and do whatever, and went back on the road and, you know, got a lot of attention for them and at the time. And so it was just a big win-win for everybody, but so much respect for those guys who, you know, have made their indelible mark, you know, on the rock and roll scene, you know.
Yeah, you don't do a lot of covers, but you know how to pick them when you do and really make them into something, which is really cool.
Thank you.
I want to ask you about another ripper on the record, which talk about killer riffs. That you know me, man. I love the big guitar driven stuff. And Is There Any Love in Your Heart, man? Kicks ass. Tell me about that one.
Yeah, we used to open the show with that. There's footage you can see from a thing called Alive from Planet Earth, and we used to open with that track. And again, that was Craig, myself, and Tony jamming. So on the majority of the record, it's me with Craig playing as well, or some tracks are all me. But there's 3 tracks where Tony's playing bass with us, and that was Just Be a Woman, Are You Gonna Go My Way, and Is There Any Love in Your Heart? I can't believe I remember this at this moment. But that was another jam, you know, and we love to jam. We would love to just pick up our instruments. I loved getting behind the drums, and we were just playing and playing, came up with the changes, Craig and myself. And that was another live session, rhythm session. And after cutting it, by virtue of the key, because when we jam, I'm not thinking about the keys and it's just the right vocal key and whatnot. We just play, and I got to deal with it. And the key that it was in led me to writing that melody, which was in falsetto, which I think worked really well against all of those guitars. You know, you wouldn't expect to have a falsetto jam, but it was, it had a Zeppelin-esque sort of feeling. And we just went with it. But that's one of my favorites as well. It has a lot of energy.
I'm a huge fan of the record that followed Are You Gonna Go My Way as well, which is Circus, which will be 30 in a few years. But when I hear something like Is There Any Love in Your Heart, it feels like it almost could have also been on Circus. Like, it seems like with Circus, on some of the stuff, you kind of went in a little bit more of that direction.
Yeah. And they're right next to each other. And I was sort of in that mode. And then I got, carried even further when we went out to, we cut the majority of that record in the castle in France. We were doing the whole, Zeppelin Stones thing. We got to go get a castle. We got to go get a chateau. And
were you there for tax purposes though, or just for the vibe?
No. Being an American, I didn't get that year out thing that the English we get. So no, it was. And you know what's crazy right now? So I'm on La Cienega, and I just looked past. The diner Norm's, right?
Yeah, of course.
So right behind Norm's is a street called Albert Street, and I just saw the apartment that I was living in when I met Craig, in the apartment that Craig came to play with me that morning. I just looked at it out of the corner of my eye, which is kind of crazy.
That is crazy.
So Circus was. I just went to France. At the time, I was with Vanessa, and I was spending a lot of time in Paris, and I wanted to be there. And so that's why I did that.
So going back to Are You Gonna Go My Way? 2 more tracks I want to ask you about. Sister is epic, and one of my favorite vocals you did on the record. And clocking in at around 7 minutes long, but just such a great tune. Tell me about the origins of that one.
So I have a friend that I grew up with that I called my sister, and wow, it's a long story. So in short, she married a guy who she did not know was a drug dealer, amongst many things. And when she was driving on her honeymoon, because they got married in Paris and then they went down to Italy, they got pulled over by officials of some sort, and there was all of this blow in the trunk of the car. She ended up in jail. Not only did she end up in jail, she was pregnant and ended up having her child in jail, and was in a jail on some remote place in Italy. And this song is about her and about that whole situation. Not enough time to get into the whole thing, but that gives you the gist of what that was about. So it opens with that line, "Sister, did you have to fall in love, with a man that never was, up to no good," and it goes on from there. But on another occasion, we'll get into all that.
Yeah. And the final track on the record is you got a whole reggae vibe going on, which is fitting because it's about the Bahamas, right?
Yes. It's called Eleutheria. So I live in Eleuthera. My mother was Bahamian. I've been in the Bahamas all my life, and
We see you on those commercials for the Bahamas, Lenny, riding that horse.
Yeah. I love the Bahamas and my roots there. And so I was just vibing out, and I didn't think I would ever do a reggae track like that, but it just kind of wrote itself. I wrote that song about the feeling that I have there, which I sort of made up the word because the island is called Eleuthera, and I figured, well, the feeling of being there would be Eleutheria, and just wrote this tune on, about how I feel and this freedom. And Eleuthera means freedom in Greek, which is the name. And it's one of my favorite tracks, and I've never ever played that song live. So it's a song that actually I've been talking about for the next tour, because I'm getting ready to drop an album this fall and get back on the road and do another world tour. That's a song that I want to play live and never have.
Well, it's a good challenge that you have with a new record coming, and of course the catalog, how great it is already. Trying to figure out what you do and don't play at this point in your 90 or 2 hours is probably the biggest challenge right now, making a set list.
Right.
And did you over-record a lot for Are You Gonna Go My Way? I know there were special editions that came out, bonus tracks, extras, and things like that. Was there a lot of stuff that wasn't in the original track listing?
There's just a few things. I'm not one that makes 50 songs to pick 11 or 12 or whatever it might be. There's usually 2, 3, 4, 5 things left over. I don't know, the way I work, it just seems to find itself, and I trust it, and I kind of know when it's done, when that moment is done. So there's not a ton of things left over, not like Prince, you know what I mean, where there's hundreds and hundreds and thousands of songs that over the career that have been sitting. I don't have it like that. No.
Did the record surprise you when it went on to do over 2 million in the U.S. alone? I know it became really big in the U.K., Australia. It was a big record as well. I mean, when you look back, it was a nice build. I mean, if you think about it, for what at the time you're still a relatively new artist, to build, to have the first record do 500,000, second record do 1 million. I mean, those numbers are staggering now, but back then, that's a really nice build. And then you come into this record and it really all comes together, puts you on a whole different level. Touring wise, I mean, like you said, you got legends opening for you. I mean, it maybe seemed like it happened pretty quick to an outsider, but it really didn't. I mean, you had put a lot of groundwork in to get to this.
Yeah. I think the build was great. And it was, as it built from there, to Circus, to 5 and Greatest Hits and all that stuff, and then everything just got really out of hand. I mean, it grew at a pace that I could handle, and that enabled me to still be a human being as I wanted to be, So I'm very appreciative. And the tours were incredible. We had great people with us. I mean, in the States we had Blind Melon, and unfortunately, I mean, I was, after Blind Melon left on that tour, Shannon passed, and he was somebody that I became very, very close with and was like a brother. I mean, I really loved that kid. And so there's a lot of experiences and a lot of great artists around us touring with us. And, we went all around the world. We were breaking records in Japan. I think at the time it was Eric Clapton was the only one who played more Budokans in a row. We used to go to Japan and stay for a month, which is, pretty crazy to just be in Japan for the month touring and doing, whatever it was, 9, 10 Budokans, I don't know, and playing, from Hokkaido all the way up north, all the way down south. And it was a great run and a great time and a great experience. And things were still raw. This was pre common cell phones and pre, everybody filming everything and cameras and online and all this stuff. It was still a raw time in rock and roll. And so I really appreciate having, lived at that time through that.
The other thing real quick that I noticed about this was this record being 30 years old, coming out in 93, when it was the height of the CD era. And when you get the CD, which I still have in front of me, you still put it as two sides on the back of the record, side A and side B, which nobody did on CDs, of course, because you didn't flip them. But I don't recall, like, vinyl was pretty much done when this came out, right? There wasn't, was there a vinyl initially?
Oh, yeah, we put vinyl out. There's a great gatefold on Are You Gonna Go My Way. We were still putting out vinyl, but of course, now, today, vinyl's hip again and whatever. At that time, yeah, vinyl was there, but people were more into having their CDs, obviously. But I have this old school thinking and feeling of side A and side B. I respect the album and all the albums that I grew up on. And there's a reason song 1 through 5 or 5 and then 5 through 10. There's a reason that they end with one thing and then begin the next side with another thing. I still thought in that way. So I was like, fuck it. I'm putting side A and side B, and this is the way it goes. This is how it should be listened to, Take a break out, take a moment after the last song on side A, then start side B. It starts a whole other feeling and a whole other vibe. And, I know people don't think that way anymore, but I still
I do. I do too. Yeah. I appreciate that so much. I think that is so cool. And lastly, Lenny, do you have a favorite song on the record? I mean, I know, but they're probably all like your kids, but is there one for you that is special, at least at this moment beyond the others?
Wow. Wow. I'd have to say, Are You Gonna Go My Way? Just because of what it is. But then there's an album track. There's a song called Black Girl on there that I love, that is honoring black women. And that's one of my favorites as well. Yeah.
Yeah, there's just so much great stuff, man. I'm glad, and I'm so appreciative of you taking a few minutes, man, to talk about this. Because when I saw your post that this thing was 30, I'm like, we got to do something. This is just an amazing record. It's an amazing time in your career, man. Yeah, I woke up and I happened to look at the phone, and I saw that you had texted me, and I hadn't heard from you in a while, and I love what you do, and I respect you, and you've always been wonderful with me, and we're both huge Kiss fans, So and I'm older, Lenny. I've been doing this 40 years this year, man. Your record's 30. I've been doing this shit 40 years this year. It's nuts. Well, congratulations to you, man. And anyway, I was happy to hear from you, and happy to always talk to you. Well, I appreciate that, man, and I hope we can talk anytime. You're always welcome to come on, even if it's unrelated to your stuff, man. You want to just shoot the shit about anything. But real quick before you go, what can you tell us about the next record? When are we going to get music? The next record is very interesting because it deals with that before I did Let Love Rule. I was calling myself Romeo Blue, and I was doing that whole thing that I had done from high school. So this record that's coming out is sort of the record I didn't make before Let Love Rule, which is very interesting because I never really honored that part of my life. And when I wrote the book Let Love Rule that came out, I guess it was the beginning of COVID, that book came out. I spent a lot of time thinking about the past and that period, which is where I was out on the streets of LA, trying to find myself. Left home when I was 15, and I was doing this whole thing under Romeo Blue, which led me back to being myself, that's what that exercise was. But the music that I was making at that time, I completely, did the polar opposite. And that's what Let Love Rule was. I found myself. So now it's very interesting to go back and look at that time when I was in my late teens. And so I did that. And that's essentially what this record is. I'll tell you that much. Yeah. Are they actually songs that you wrote back then, or are they just in the spirit of where you were at back then? There's 2 or 3 from that time, and the rest are new in that spirit. Yeah. Wow, that sounds cool, man. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. And for the last record, it's amazing that Raised Vibration is already like 4 years, 4.5 years old, which is the last record.
We were in the middle of we were 2 years into a 3-year world tour when COVID hit. So I had just left France. I went to the Bahamas for a few days to rest. And then we were getting ready to get on the plane and go to Australia, New Zealand, Asia, and continue. We had a whole other year to do because it was a 3-year tour. And of course, we know what happened. And I stayed in the Bahamas for 2+ years and actually recorded 3 albums during that time. So this is one of them. And it's been a minute. So I'm looking forward to dropping this new music and getting back on the road.
Well, listen, man, anytime, you know where I'm at, and when the music's ready, make sure we'll get the word out and get it to me, and we'll do something around that. Maybe we can, maybe do something cool where we get together, New York, LA, wherever it is. And hell, I'll get on the horse with you in the Bahamas and we'll do it there.
That I would love to see.
Yeah, so would I. I've never been on a horse in my life.
Well, when you come down, I will get you on the horse.
Lenny, listen, man, thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it, and good luck at the Academy Awards. We'll be looking for you this weekend, and looking forward to the new music, and happy 30th. Are You Gonna Go My Way, man? It's amazing. Still holds up amazingly after 3 decades.
Thank you, Eddie. I really appreciate it, man. Have a beautiful
All right, man.
day.
You too. Take care.
Bye-bye.
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 See ya. There he goes, everybody. Lenny Kravitz here on Trunk Nation. How cool is that, man? I could tell he got to where he had to get to because he was sitting in the car, waiting for us to end to get out. You could hear it because he was driving or being driven. And as he said, just got to LA, lives in the Bahamas, and he's getting ready to perform at the Academy Awards this weekend. As we mentioned a few days ago, and we just heard from him, he'll be doing the In Memoriam segment with his longtime guitarist, Craig Ross. And they will be doing a song, while it's obviously somber, while people who passed away in film, they scroll the images. It's always a big moment in the Academy Awards, but Lenny will be the musical accompaniment during that. So you'll be seeing and hearing from him this weekend. But so cool for him to take time out from his schedule to join us and talk about Are You Gonna Go My Way? Really his landmark record. 30 years after, 30 years today that record was released. And again, I remember being in rock radio as long as I've been. First album comes out, Let Love Rule. We were playing it in rock radio. And then the second record, MaSSa, came out. If you remember, Slash plays a guitar solo on a track or two on that record. So there was some rock airplay there. But then when the riff and the song Are You Gonna Go My Way hits, and as Lenny mentioned, the music video and all of that, it just became a whole nother thing. It really did. It just took him to a whole nother level. And, that's, as I was saying to Lenny, that's the ultimate build for an artist. First record does gold, which at that time was phenomenal for a debut album, but not like it came out and did 3 million where you'd have to live up to it, and it would be too much to live up to. Next record does 1 million, double, great, gets some more airplay, And then this record comes out, Are You Gonna Go My Way, 30 years ago today, does over 2 million, and a song that just everybody knows that is held up remarkably well. And to hear the stories and the origins of the record, and that song in particular, as Lenny just told us, is really, really cool. So again, huge thanks to Lenny Kravitz. That literally came together half an hour before I came on the air. As you heard, I texted him, he got back to me, and he just heard what you heard, which is just awesome to be able to pull that off.